I'll go ahead and start. And we'll have this talk recorded so the rest of the people who aren't here will be able to see it. So give me a sec. I'm sharing my screen right now with you guys to go over the presentation. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, Louis, I can see it.
All right, awesome. All right, guys. So today we wanted to talk about the needs analysis that you guys will be performing. And so this is the call agenda. I'll be introducing what exact need analysis is, and then giving a brief overview of the pre-consulting organization profile and the key needs of businesses, which are documents that Josh has produced. So he'll be going into those a little bit deeper. And then we'll be talking a little bit about relationship building with the clients, and at the end we'll be assigning some tasks that need to be completed for the upcoming weeks. So the needs analysis, this is the first initial call that you guys will have with your clients. And this is to serve for two purposes. So you want to understand the problems your client is facing, but you also want to understand what your client is doing well. So for the first part, you want to identify the key issues that your team will be tackling during your consulting project. And we'll get into this a little bit deeper later in the call. We'll be talking about what exactly you'll be looking for. If whoever's not muted, can you go ahead and mute yourself? I think I can actually do that. Josh, do you have like the option of muting everyone? All right, good, thank you. So then you also want to learn about your client's company or organization, and this means some historical stuff, past issues that they've run in, how exactly the company runs, who's running it, and stuff like that. And finally, you want to begin to build a relationship with your client. So the pre-consulting profile, this is the first part. I'll pull this up a little bit after I'm done with this when Josh begins explaining it. And this is basically the practical information of your client. So this will be collecting name, contact information, etc., other details that we need to collect but aren't necessarily directly linked to the consulting project. Some of the information such as revenue, profit, and stuff will be collected at this end, which is more pertinent to the consulting, but most of the stuff will be data entry. And this is going to be some sensitive information, so this is why relationship building with your client is very crucial. So you'll be asking your clients about stuff like profit or revenue, how much they're generating, and this is stuff that you guys are asking for, but maybe there's room for distrust or something like that to come up, especially in Latin America. I remember when we did some consulting projects in the beginning, there was a lot of questions that one of our clients were asking concerning what exactly we were doing and why we were doing. So the sensitive information gets this a little bit more complicated. So we'll talk about a little bit more during the call about how we're going to deal with this. But this should also be straightforward, so it's going to be more of an ask and report type deal. There won't be much to talk about on this. And yeah, again, some of this information will aid you during your project. So Josh, if you want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about this part that you built, I can go ahead.
Sure. So I'll be sharing this document with all of you guys following this call. And, as your team lead consultants will be responsible, or the team will be responsible for getting that in following the call. But really the purpose of what we put together is to help us track before and after with each company we work with. So whether or not, right, we're contributing to, whether we're contributing to any type of, change, whether that's in finances, whether it's in finances, whether it's in organizational structure. There's a few different topics we track on, but really the point of this, right, document is not so much just to sit there and ask questions to the client. It's going to be more to serve as a baseline to get a better understanding of, the organization, etc. But I think Lewis touched on this, that we're going to leave it up to you guys, right, to facilitate this conversation. So this was the first part, the overview of the organization. Really, it's not too complicated. Most of this information you guys probably already have based on the client profiles we sent you, right? A couple things to add in, like name of individual present at the needs assessment, the position of those individuals. Towards the bottom, it talks about the number of partnerships you have, the number of business, people your business currently impacts, the number of online marketing, social media platforms you use. So I guess imagine this, right? This needs assessment call. The hat that you're wearing is more of a researcher, right? You're not there to provide any type of immediate advice as much as you're there to get as much information as you can gathered. So that way you can actually go and execute a strong plan to help this organization. So that's kind of I think Lewis hit it well, but these are just the types of questions you'll be asked, or you'll be filling out, but you're certainly not limited to just these. So Lewis is going to walk through kind of each section of this document we put together. That should be a good starting point for each of your conversations.
Yeah, and Josh, just to clear this up a little bit, this portion as well going to go through the 1, 2, 3 contact form, or right? This is the portion that will be filled out.
We have this on a Google Forms, okay, that the lead consultants or the teams will all be completing, and I'll be sharing that following the call.
Yeah, awesome, great. So let me get back to the PowerPoint on this. Shoot, I just lost it. Give me a sec, guys. There we go. So yeah, that's the pre-consulting profile that we're working with. Shoot, give me a sec, guys. Why is this not letting me present? Huh. One second, guys. I'm having trouble with this. This will be back up. Josh, did you say you couldn't share on your end?
I think only the host can share, Lewis.
Okay, give me 1 second. The browser's acting up.
Yeah, while you're pulling that up, maybe I can just talk then a little bit more briefly to what we put together, just so that's clear.
Yeah.
So I guess the purpose of tonight's call, right, was we want to provide some type of direction around this initial needs call you're going to have. So Lewis is going to help walk through, right, relationship building, really the needs assessment, the types of questions to get out. But what we wanted to do is provide you guys almost like a guideline. So I spent some time for the last week and a half or so really thinking very critically about what types of questions we'd want to ask based on the experience we've had with clients, as well as what types of questions or indicators we would like to get results for to evaluate whether or not we're really contributing towards impact for these businesses. So what he's going to do tonight is kind of give you more of the overview feel of the needs call, but also walk you through this document so you guys are a little bit more familiarized with it. And you guys can review that before you get into the needs assessment call.
Awesome, great. So this is back up. Sorry about that. Also, I forgot to mention this earlier on. If you guys have any questions throughout this call, please feel free to ask whenever. Just feel free to interrupt me. We'll open it up towards the end for questions. But if there's anything throughout the call that's not clear or sounds confusing, then please feel free to immediately stop and ask a question. So the next part is the key needs of business. So this is where, compared to the last questions, this will be more about the actual consulting. So this is where you'll get the business information and you'll be able to identify the company needs. but you'll also be able to gauge like what they're doing well. So these will not be straightforward questions. So it's not going to be a yes or no answer. It's not going to be you ask and they tell you. Some of these issues may be complicated or underlying. And once I guess I can go ahead and show the document right now for you guys to get a little bit better of a sense and feel for this. So it's broken down into 4 parts. So it's strategy, marketing, organizational structure, and finances. And these questions will ask, for example, like what does the organization do? How does it accomplish it? Some more for marketing, like what tools do they use for marketing? What's their budget for marketing? And stuff like that. So through these questions, you'll be able to gauge more clearly what the needs of your client will be. And more so talking about relationship building, this will work a lot better if it turns into a conversation and not just you guys asking questions and the client speaking, right? You want to engage your client in these opportunities that you have. So you want to go beyond just also the questions that we provide for you guys. So this is meant to serve sort of like a platform for you guys to project yourselves even further into the client's needs. So some questions may not first reveal the information you're looking for, but as you continue with the conversation, you may get into the real information that will help you throughout your project. So for example, I know one of our projects we had with an ecotourism company that I've talked to you, some of you about. They had a problem where they weren't able to source clients on their own. They were using middlemen tour companies that would sell their tours, but the actual tour company didn't really benefit from this relationship. And one of like the underlying issues in this problem was that the company's marketing strategy wasn't up to par with what it should have been. So this was more the problem. The initial problem was that they needed help sourcing more clients, but like more so the underlying issue was that there was a marketing problem that we needed to discuss and also target. So these types of issues will come as you begin talking to your client, understanding your client, and it's not going to be straightforward. So a little bit on that. So you want to collect the information that we ask, so the questions that we provide you, but you also want to take your own notes on any ideas that you may come up with at the meeting or anything that you think that isn't covered by our actual questions. So we want to encourage you guys to go beyond what we actually put together. So that's my take on this. Josh, I don't know if you want to explain something that I may have missed in this portion.
Yeah, so I think the key, right, with this conversation, let me share myself. So the key with this conversation, right, is to always start by having the business first describe what they believe their key strengths are. So I always like to start with something more positive, right? So typically this type of a call will start with some introductions where you're introducing yourself. They're going to introduce themselves, right? And then you're going to introduce Pakta, tell them what we're doing. But then they're going to want to tell you about their business. So what I found down in Latin America, but more importantly since we've been consulting back home, is most of these organizations are really excited, right, about whatever they're doing. So typically I like to use this or leverage this to get more of an understanding of their business. So when it says the key needs of the business, right, before I get right into what are your problems, I typically like to say, okay, well, hey, why don't you describe to me your business? Tell me what you guys do, right? So some of this conversation, like the needs analysis for the organization, right, sometimes that helps start the conversation. Like, hey, what do you guys do? How do you accomplish this? How do you impact your community? What's the big vision for, the future? Right, so I like to have more of a positive conversation to say for them to really show off their business. And then once you kind of have them show off their business, right, you're kind of asking probing questions and say, okay, great. Well, that's really exciting. Like, what's your vision for the future? Okay, like what do you believe currently are some of the key needs or your key limitations in order to achieve that vision, right? So these questions that we put in place for you aren't necessarily for you to go from the beginning of this to the absolute end and ask every single one, really you're trying to get an understanding of the organization. And what we found was typically, the strategy, the marketing, their structure, and finances are really the four key, business themes that typically most of the organizations we work with have some type of a challenge around that we can address remotely. But part of this too is be innovative, right? And don't feel like this is the limited set of questions. It's more, for you guys to have an idea of what types of questions, ultimately, and what type of a process you can follow in the call. But right, again, the process is going to be the introductions first, introducing Pakta, then they'll introduce their business to you, and typically through that introduction, right, once they've talked all about their success, what they do, their impact, right, then it's okay to ask, okay, well, what are some of the challenges you have currently? How could we help you? And often they'll tell you a lot of the information around strategy, marketing, structure, but they might not say it explicitly, and you have to ask the right questions to get to the underlying root issue.
Yeah, great, Josh. That's some few great points. I wanted to add additionally something that I forgot. So in these situations, it may be the case that they need help sourcing another type of strategy, marketing strategy, or need to change their organizational structure, change the way they do their finances. But it can also be the case that they're already doing something that's working very well, and they just need help scaling it up. So you don't want to go into this just thinking about what you can add onto the company, but how you can improve what they're already doing. And I think that's what Josh talked in the beginning about, asking them not necessarily just straightforward what they need help, but what they're doing and how they're doing it, so you can gauge to see if they're already doing something that's working that just needs to get scaled up or passed to different parts of the organization, or needs to be changed up just a little bit. So it's not necessarily just going in and asking, what do you need help, and how can I provide you with something that you don't already have. So I'll stop there, I guess, for any questions that you guys may have with any of this that I covered already. Anyone? Feel free to just speak up. Awesome. All right. I don't hear anyone, so I'll continue. So finally, the last part is relationship building. And this can come off, I guess, as you may not see the importance of this right away, but I think to have a successful project and to be able to help your client in the best way, you need to have a great relationship with them so that they can allow you to help them, but also allow them to help themselves, right? So when you go to your client, you're going to be a stranger to your client, right? You're going to be some random, like American who's on their computer, you don't really know them, that's trying to help. So you want to introduce your guys' selves I'd say pretty thoroughly, talk about what you guys are studying, and through that process also demonstrate your credibility. So why are you helping them, and why are you the best person to be helping these clients? Because it may already come across this way because as an American college student, but you want to make sure that you demonstrate that you're capable and can do this the best way. And you also want to demonstrate your intentions with the company. I know this was a topic of conversation with one of our clients as well. They weren't really sure why we were doing it, and I think that's an important part. One, to make sure that the client understands that we're here to help them and not necessarily try to take advantage of them or go down that path. You know, you want to. I'd say it's a good idea to restate that we're a pro bono consulting. We're not doing pro bono consulting projects because sometimes they might not have heard of this before, right? They may be used to only paying for services. So it's important to restate that what you're doing isn't going to cost them anything. Because I've had clients before ask me, like, so why are you doing this? Are you going to charge us? Like, what's the catch, right? Because to them, it may seem something that's too good to be true, right? These American business students coming and helping your business for free. So you want to make sure that you present yourself and through Pakta's mission, but also through your reasons why you're working with us. You know, when I interviewed you guys gave me great reasons of why you wanted to work with Pakta and why it was something that you were passionate about. So I'd say restating these these reasons throughout your conversations with the client, but making sure that you right away try to introduce yourself in the best possible way. So again, I guess I already touched on this already, turning questions into conversations. So it's better than just having a one-sided question and answer. So try to really turn in these questions into conversations, and also, I guess, reiterating what I had. It may also reveal information that wasn't really asked, and they may provide you with stuff that you weren't necessarily intending to hear or thought that was an issue, but now you see that it's a bigger issue than it was before. So that's, I guess, on relationship building. And also, one more thing. Sorry about these slides. They seem pretty boring. We put this together. I'll try to make them more fun next time. They're kind of bland right now. So I apologize for that, just kind of random. So I'll turn it over to Josh now to go over the tasks of the week.
Awesome. Thanks, Louis, and thanks for going through that. So I think before we get into the tasks kind of what's upcoming, I would appreciate to hear from some of you guys, maybe if we have any questions. So really the purpose of what we were doing here today was just giving you guys kind of the bigger picture overview, but really trying to emphasize a couple key things. So Louis mentioned one, right, that we want to make sure we're really building trust with our organizations, and the way we do that is by explaining, is by explaining really the why behind this, right, the why to Pakta, right, to empower local entrepreneurs and develop U.S. business leaders, and how this is an opportunity for you to practice something in real business and provide real impact. And at the same time, you can do it by equipping a local business or a Latin American business with a new skill set or new ideas or new marketing plans, etc. So I think really the key is to build the trust. That's the first focus. But the second thing was we wanted to equip you guys with some type of tool that could help enable you to do to get as much information as you can, because really this first needs call is your opportunity not only to introduce yourself to the business, but to collect and gather as much information as possible to then go back and build your plan. So, I think just so everyone's clear kind of on how this call fits in, right? So you have this needs call, but then typically at the end of this needs call, you're going to want to make sure you schedule the next follow-up call, right? And that next follow-up call will then be to present your plan. And for most groups, that should be about a week or so later. So you'll go back, you'll work with your team, come up with a plan based on what you found and what you heard of what types of things you would like to provide at the end of the project. Then you're going to go present that to the organization. So we've kind of equipped you guys with, obviously Skype's been used, but you can use Skype and you can share your screen, create a little PowerPoint as a group. But on the grand scheme of things, right, you have this initial needs call, right, where from the call you schedule your next call, which is the actual presentation of plan. Right, and then typically you might even want to schedule like weekly calls with the organization to give them updates and then a final presentation in the future. So it's a good habit to continue to build relationship with the organization. But that's kind of, I guess, the scheme of where we're at here today. So before I give an update on how we're going to get you guys connected right away with these initial calls and what the tasks of the week are, why don't we maybe take a couple minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, to answer some of your questions that are specifically related to the needs call and specifically related to any other types of questions on where we are at right now and that process I just explained. Now, I'll wait a minute or two here, and if I don't hear anything, because I want to make sure we give enough time to really address any questions you guys might have.
I guess I do have one slight question. How much do companies or organizations already know about us?
As in Pakta?
Yeah, as in, so number one, how much do you know about Pakta and like our background? And number two, like I guess because you've connected with these organizations because of your previous consulting organization, so I guess you probably do have some experience getting consulted by other people. So I just want to get some background on that.
Yeah, so most of the organizations that you guys are working with this round, we actually haven't specifically, us as in the 4 co-founders, consulted for. We wanted to get with you guys with some new organizations and really scale this to get connected to more groups. So most of these organizations have all been consulted in country. meaning they've had like a student group or some type of an organization come and provide them some type of feedback or consulting through Social Entrepreneur Corps. But almost every organization is yet to have this type of consulting remotely. So you guys are going to be really their first experience on this remote model and their remote consulting, right? So it's going to be something new for them. So that's why really the idea of building trust with the organization is going to be key. Does that make sense, Jason?
Yeah, that helps provide background. Thanks for that.
Yeah, so that's the background. And I'm going to give a little bit more of an update, towards when I talk about the next steps coming up. About the conversations I've actually had this week with all of the SEC and in-country people that are going to be helping coordinate this call. I'll give you guys a little bit more of a fuller picture of that update the call that I had with them this week, so everyone's on the same page.
One more thing that I wanted to add, I forgot to emphasize this earlier on, is in the initial needs analysis, make sure to get a stream of, a contact information that's going to be used for the follow-up calls and stuff. So make sure it may be a phone, a Skype, or whatever platform you guys decide to use, preferably Skype. Make sure that you get a platform that will be accessible to both of you guys on a frequent basis. So you want to make sure that you get that. Otherwise, you won't be able to contact your client.
What other types of questions do you guys have?
Go ahead. So I was hoping to build on the previous question a little bit. So generally, in your guys' experience, when you're working with new clients, you haven't consulted with them before yet. In your experience, what's been usually the level of receptiveness to that? Lewis mentioned that in some cases they may be expecting to have to pay us. So does that sometimes create like a wariness maybe of consulting workers, or are they generally very receptive to the kind of work that you guys do or that we're about to do?
I can speak to that, Josh. I think because these clients have been sourced through organizations that have already been working with them, I don't think it's going to be that big of a, surprise to them that we're providing a pro bono service. One of the clients that I spoke to about earlier that they were confused about whether they had to pay or not. That was actually a client that we sourced ourselves, so another organization hadn't been consulting for them. So
okay.
But even though that's the case that other organizations have helped, Pakta Consulting is still like a new organization or that they haven't faced yet. So that's why I brought up that conversation, because they might not be familiar with our model and may not know exactly what we're doing and why we're doing. So that's why it's important to, regardless that even though these companies have worked with Social Entrepreneur Corps before, they haven't worked with Pakta Consulting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think just to couple off that, really you guys are the face of the organization, right? So we brought all of you guys on because we're really excited about the work that you're going to do. We recognize that you guys all have a really strong set of skill sets, and really we're trusting everyone to really be the face of this and to be able to speak thoroughly to what we're doing here and why this is important. Because really for you guys, this is a great development opportunity, right? To be able to go and work with an organization from another country and provide some type of impact. Right, so I would explain it as well to them as, hey, this is, as a student in business, right? I wanted to do something that was practical and actually created impact, and this is an opportunity to do that, and that's what we're all doing here at Pakta. So I think it's just important to remember, that really you guys wear the hat of Pakta Consulting in all of these conversations, and we're excited and trusting you guys all to be able to do that. Does anyone else have any questions?
I think I heard someone. Was that anyone trying to ask a question? I think you may have spoken over.
That might have just been me saying thank you. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? If not, Lewis, maybe you can just pull up the presentation again, and I'll go through that last slide.
Awesome, yeah. I'll do that right now. Give me a sec here. It's, I don't know, keep running into this lagging.
That's fine. So while Lewis is pulling that up, maybe I'll give you guys kind of an update of what we've been doing on our end to get these projects ready to go. So this week I had a conversation with all of the country directors of Social Entrepreneur Corps that are all currently in the respective countries. So just gave them the full rundown of kind of the process of what the next steps would be to get these clients onboarded. So they had, heard about it all from Greg, who you guys all had the chance to meet on one of our first calls. But I went through to all the country directors and had this Skype call just to make sure everyone was on the same page. So we've been adding them kind of one by one into Slack this week. And following this call, about half or so of the country directors have been added directly into your team channels. We're going to work to add the other ones tonight, and there's one more we have to follow up with, but most of those should be loaded onto your Slack channels this evening. And I'm going to go into each one of those channels and just give a quick introduction, and so that way we can just start facilitating conversation. But for the most part, everyone's on the same page of trying to get these initial needs calls done this upcoming week, ideally. And that's going to be really our main goal for the week. It's not going to happen with every single team or organization, but we're going to try to set an ambitious goal to see as many of these as we can as possible. There was one country that they had quite a bit going on this week, so we're still trying to work out how we're going to facilitate this with the clients. But ultimately, right, the concept is you guys are going to be in contact directly with the liaison in your Slack channel. The liaison is going to reach out to the organization, schedule that first call, and then they're going to be on the Skype call just to help buffer that relationship. So I know Jack had talked a little bit about, so how are we going to, build this relationship? How do they know about us, right? And I think Jason brought that up as well. So how about some of the country leaders will actually be on that call to facilitate it. Others will just kind of hand the client or the organization off directly to us, depending on their schedules. But that being said, you guys will be able to communicate that directly within the Slack channel. So here's the kind of overview tasks of the week. So the main goal is going to be to schedule and do the initial needs assessment call this week. Like I said, it's not going to happen for every single team, but we're going to do our best really to make that happen to as many across the board. So I know a lot of you have already done this, but kind of in preparation for that, right? The idea is to do as much research as you can on the client and on like the local economy. So maybe looking into things like geography, business climate, culture, etc. Really, that's your background information just to become a little bit more acclimated with that. I know that was a kind of an assignment to last week, but just wanted to make that clear that before the needs call, everyone should have, have done some of that background research prior. The next thing is Quinn had actually sent out a link for all of you guys to get on Trello. So I'd be looking for the lead consultants to make sure they've mapped out their project on Trello. So what that would look like, right, would be putting all the major milestones in, like the initial needs call, right, presenting your presenting plan to the client, creating deliverables, and then obviously the final presentation. So mapping that out and including things like your weekly team meeting, etc. But Trello is a good way to delegate tasks, and ultimately at the end of the projects, we're going to be looking for all of you guys to upload any type of document that you provide or presentation directly into Trello. You can attach it to the different tasks in there, so that way we have a way of collecting all that information. The fourth thing is I know some of your teams have actually already started to do this by creating like Google Docs within your team, but I just created a bios channel, so hashtag bios on Slack. We're looking for each of you guys to actually just give us a quick, short, concise write-up. I think you guys might have already done a little bit of that, but you can just give us a little bit of a write-up. And McG is going to be working this week, actually, and is excited to launch you guys onto the website with consultant profiles. So that timeline of when that will be completed is still to be determined, but we're going to start the process this week. So hopefully pretty soon we can get all of you guys directly up on the website and could give you something a little bit more to show for the work that you're doing. So that's the overview of the week, right? So just in recap, the key goal is to get all of you guys, or as many of you guys as we can, on initial needs assessment calls. But at a minimum, we're looking to have almost every single call either completed or scheduled by the end of this week, right? In the meantime, what types of things can you be doing to get ready for that? Do extensive research on the client local economy. You can even divide that out amongst yourselves and present internally as a team. Map out your project on Trello and then post the bios in the bios channel. So really, this is where things get started and get exciting. Now that you guys get a chance to actually get in conversation with the clients, you get a chance to really start and launch the project. We're just as excited, or we're probably even a little bit more excited than a lot of you guys. Maybe a little bit nervous getting going, but for you guys, your first time being on a call like this. But really, just be confident and rest assured, right, that we put you guys all in this position because we trust you guys to be able to provide real impact and really help these organizations, and we're going to help do our best to guide you along the way. So that's kind of the tasks of the week. Maybe just to take a step back, I did post within Slack kind of an overview of what the program was going to be like the last week in terms of what the dates are going to look like, when the calls are going to be, what the time frames of everything are. So just to expect that every 2 weeks we're going to have one of these all hands on deck calls. The first couple of weeks or the first couple of calls have to be us more talking to you guys, providing you information. But in the future, we're actually going to use this as a space where you guys can internally present to each other, present some of your deliverables, and at the end, we're actually going to do a whole call where you all can present each project and what you guys did, so we can all learn from each other. So we're really looking forward to that. And in between the 2 weeks, or the bi-weekly calls, on the week in between, we're going to have the call with the lead consultant just to provide some guidance to your teams. So that's kind of the overview of where we're at. Following this call, like I said, we're going to be adding all of the liaisons, except for the one or two we're still working to get in contact with and upload it on Slack. We'll be adding them into your channels. I'll go into each of the channels and just start facilitating the conversation. Be patient. The liaisons may take a couple days to get going, but they're going to be planning to reach out to these organizations early this upcoming week, and then be getting on needs assessment calls as soon as we can. So yeah, I know it's 6:45 here. We anticipated this going about 45 minutes or so, and then leaving some time at the end to maybe hit any questions. I know we took a few minutes already. But yeah, does anyone have any types of questions or comments related to the overview that I just provided of this upcoming week and what's coming thereafter?
All right, no questions again. I guess it's a
either it's a quiet night, or it's pretty straightforward. One of the two.
Well, just a bit of a side question, but
Absolutely.
In terms of the Columbia Business School course, what's the status on that?
What's the latest on that?
Yeah.
So the latest I heard was it's supposed to be launched this upcoming week. I haven't received confirmation on the day yet. So I'm going to go ahead and get in contact with Greg. Greg was actually traveling internationally and domestically for the last week or so. So he's the one that's going to be launching the course, and he said it's virtually ready. He just had to go ahead and get it started. So I guess I'll give an update on that as soon as I hear this week, or I have my conversation with Greg this week.
Sure, sounds great.
Yep. We're excited to get you guys on that as well. But in the meantime, part of the reason why we wanted to make sure we had this call was we want to give you guys some direction prior to the needs assessment to make sure you guys are equipped and ready to go for that.
Awesome. Then I think, well, yeah, if you guys have any more questions regarding anything we went over today in this call, or anything about Pakta in general, whatever it may be, feel free once again to reach out to either one of us. I will direct you with whatever you need help with, And yeah, thank you for getting on this call. We'll provide you with any new information that comes up. And yeah, we're excited to finally see these projects launch. So yeah, guys, have a good night, and thanks again for coming.